We lock up one out of every 100 citizens, and not a mention of this in any of the presidential debates. Democrats, Republicans, no attempt to reduce this. It's just pretty disgraceful. And it makes you think, well, how can you be proud of a country which is locking up enormous amounts of its citizens?
There you go, Steve. Felonies. You know, there's some neighborhoods in certain areas, in New York City especially, where 25% of the males are felonized. They all have felonies, which means they can't vote.
Wow.
And if you don't want somebody voting for you, you just felonize them. Yeah. You know, back in the old days, you could if you gave a kid a little bit of corporal punishment. Now you kick your girlfriend's kid in the ass, you got a felony, and away you go. You know, I mean, they're felonizing people right and left for the most minor things, including the drugs.
And in line with that, in using 2006 numbers, they had 1.9 million drug arrests. 1.9 million, unbelievable. And roughly 40% of those were for marijuana. And of all those marijuana arrests, the vast majority, something like 90%, were for possession. They're locking people up left and right for possession of marijuana. Does anyone think that's a good idea? Or does anyone think that the benefits of that outweigh the costs? I'd love to see the case for it. I mean, worse yet, I mean, it's just destroying lives. I mean, in addition to the costs of locking people up, you destroy lives, you pull them away from their families.
Murders, too. They're murders. Just like during Prohibition, the criminal element takes over. They're making the money, and marijuana would be virtually free if it weren't for the fact that it was illegalized. And so they have to steal a lot of money to pay for their marijuana, and other drugs, I might say, cocaine included. And it's just becoming a situation where it's craziness. They've taken over Mexico, the entire nation now, the drug people, and they're trying to take over this country because of our stupid laws that prohibit, will not let you take whatever you want. Whiskey is fine, but God help you if you smoke marijuana. And what's the craziness going on? What's this all about? They have, I might say, they have legalized it essentially, or decriminalized it in several states. But at this point, it's madness, and they'll pick you up. Well, you're at Fredonia. I bet half the kids there are exposed.
Every week they arrest students for marijuana. I have a hard time believing the police believe in this, or that the sort of the people overseeing the police believe in it. But there they are every year, every week, arresting more students, both on Fredonia's campus and off the campus. And what's more, it's hard for me to believe, particularly with federal law enforcement, but even state law enforcement, that these people think that what they're doing is legal. It's hard to see under the Constitution what allows the federal government to ban marijuana. I mean, even you have to stretch the Commerce Clause to the breaking point to get at it, as you saw in a case towards the end of the Bush administration. You have to basically say there are no limits to what the federal government can pursue. They can pursue you for being fat, for using sugar, for drinking too much coffee. Why? Because it ties in with some federal health goal.
Some craziness. Got a couple of calls. You want to take a call?
Sure, absolutely.
All right, good morning, caller. Thanks for waiting.
Good morning. I don't know how the weather is over there, but I'm down by the lake.
It's a blizzard up here in Mayville. It always is.
I was afraid of that because we're having a little bit of snow, but the ground is barely covered at this point. But there are some winds. Anyhow, considering what this winter has been like, I am most happy.
Well, you must smoke marijuana.
Well, to tell you the truth, I'm now probably going to get myself in big trouble.
All right, big trouble coming.
Apparently, it works different ways on different people. And in my youth, I on a couple occasions, was exposed to and willingly smoked marijuana.
Get her number, please.
And
call the FBI. We'll track her down.
Within 5 minutes, I was asleep.
Well, you didn't get too much use out of it.
Now, the people I was with that were also using the cannabis weed, yes.
That evil weed.
We're snickering and having a great old time, and I was just getting sleep and fell asleep. So I decided for the price, it wasn't that much, but it was enough. I didn't have any problem sleeping, and I decided that definitely would not be my drug of choice. And being that I feel I have an addictive personality, I wasn't going any further into that was as far as I was going.
Well, they say it leads to a higher order of drugs, other drugs, but remember, they started on mother's milk. And if you drink mother's milk, you may wind up on drugs.
And even if it did lead to sort of usage of more drugs, does that warrant sort of, incarcerating hundreds of thousands of people a year?
Well, it's like saying if you take a drink of alcohol, it's going to lead you to alcoholism.
Yeah.
So does that mean nobody can have any alcohol because it might lead to alcoholism?
Well, they tried that, and then the criminals took over.
Yes, look what happened.
Yeah,
absolutely.
criminals took over. Just as right now they're taking over the marijuana.
Exactly. We've got this war on drugs, but we're not going about it the right way, in my opinion.
We lost the war of drugs about 50 years ago.
So the longest lasting war I've ever seen.
Right.
Well, and it gives the do-gooders license to go after other things. They're not through going after tobacco or alcohol. They're just gearing up again to go after it again. Not directly, but through like higher taxes,
they're going
increased
after
regulations.
I'm telling you, they're going after fat people next. I'm a fat people, and I know that next I'm going to become an anathema to society, and
No. What they will do is weigh you, and the higher your weight, the higher your taxes will be. See?
Well, and I suppose if I wanted to weigh more, I could cheat. But if I want to weigh less, that's kind of a problem. Once you're on the scale, it's there.
Well, the work of do-gooders is never done.
That is true. That is true. I think you ought to just stick to home and worry about your own self. And inside you might have little things that aren't quite right with you, and you ought to work on them and quit working on other people and none of your business.
Thank you, caller. Send me a stamped envelopes, and I will be very happy to send you $5 off over at the Lakeview, that beautiful restaurant at the foot of the hill with the greatest fish fry and the unbelievable salad bar.
It certainly is. I love that place.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much, and have a good day, and I'm glad that I agree with the host and the guest on this particular.
Well, thank you.
I'm totally against marijuana. You can tell that.
Oh, yeah, right.
Well, let me just say how absurd it's gotten. Recently, in a Supreme Court case, the Obama administration stuck a GPS on a car without a warrant and claimed the right to track the car for days to get out where the owner was going for a few days. And the person arguing for the Obama administration was asked by one of the Supreme Court justices, would it be okay with GPS technology increasing to track every car in the United States every day of the year? And the Obama administration, which really, its disrespect for liberty is really awe-inspiring, said yes. Their view was they did not need a warrant to track every car in the United States every day of the year in pursuit of drugs or whatever is the cause of the day. This is just disgraceful.
I'm surprised that that's the Obama situation, because I would believe the way the Supreme Court is now in favor of liberal versus conservative, that would be their position.
Well, let me put it this way. The Obama administration is full of surprises. We'll put it that way. Full of surprises.
Now, I think on liberty, they've been a surprising disappointment. You expect when you get a leftist administration that they at least back basic civil liberties. Not the Obama administration. On whether it's sort of searches related to the Patriot Act, or whether it's tracking cars with GPS or other sort of drug-related incursions. They take a backseat to no one in their disrespect for liberty.
Here. Think about the alternative. What I've been hearing lately on the party that is trying to get a nominee, most of them are ultra get in your face and take your rights away, even though they want less government. They also want to get in my face and take more of my rights away.
More regulations.
Right.
Okay, well, thanks, caller.
Well, thank you.
You have a great day and a happy Easter, which is coming up before you know it.
St. Patrick's Day's coming up, too. Don't forget that.
Don't forget March 1st, which is the deadline. It's past the deadline, actually, for getting your star in for seniors, I might add.
That's true.
That'll save you a bunch. Okay, thanks again.
Got it done. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Yeah, it's a madness. You know who got the, stop me if I mentioned this before, you know who got the law passed to outlaw marijuana? It's hemp. Yeah. William Randolph Hearst, who had a string of papers all over the country, had bought huge forests of pine trees, pulp trees, and they use that for paper and other things. Direct competition with that is hemp. And they make a lot of paper and pulp out of hemp. Well, he got it in the, I think it was late 30s or whatever. He went to Congress. He had a lot of push, a lot of juice, because he ran all these papers. And he got Congress to pass a law outlawing hemp. And during the war, there was such a critical need for paper and paper products and ropes and things like that made from hemp. They basically started, they avoided the law and started raising hemp again. And after the war, William Randolph Hearst got busy again. In 1947, he got them to outlaw hemp again. Got a couple of calls. Shall we take a call?
Sure.
With that little lesson, go ahead. You're on. Caller.
Good morning.
What's up?
The question I have is that many studies over the years have talked about marijuana being a gateway drug to other drugs. Now, I understand the whole concept you're talking about is that we shouldn't be throwing people into jail for marijuana use and so forth. But I wanted to know if your guest could talk about marijuana being a gateway drug for young kids.
How about, you know, everybody who's on drugs started on milk. There you go. That's the gateway, is the milk.
Well, and the other thing is, when you're going after people's liberty or trying to get them to do things that they don't want to do to coerce them, the first thing you always want to cite is the children, right? It's always the shield when you're sort of going after what someone's doing. You want to ban steroids. You don't want to argue that adults can't use steroids and make the choices for themselves. You cite the children. Same thing with internet gambling. Same thing with pornography. Whenever someone's trying to force you to do things you don't want to do, they always cite the children. Let's say it is a gateway drug. And let's say that you even do benefit some children by making it more difficult and more expensive to get access to marijuana. Does that warrant throwing hundreds of thousands of people in jail for various drug offenses? Does it warrant the massive expense of extra police officers and correction officers? Does it warrant trampling all over the Constitution? Does it warrant the lost pleasures that adults would get when they socialize by smoking up a joint or two?
And I will mention, it is statistical that a good percentage of your kids smoke marijuana. With all these prohibitions and criminal and everything, you go down to the schools, you will find a bunch of kids smoking marijuana. Little kids.
Sure. I mean, just speak to students on any college and say, look, how many of you smoked marijuana this year? A large number will.
80%.
The low end I mean, it's just tremendous amount. The low end estimates are tens of millions of people have used marijuana in the past year. So, I mean, if it's really leading to such hard drug use, why is there so little hard drug use and so much marijuana use? But again, even if there were concerns that it does lead to hard drug use, and even if you thought that people can't responsibly use hard drugs, the question is, do the benefits of that prohibition outweigh the costs? And the burden is on the person who wants to force us to do things we don't want to do at gunpoint to make that case. They're not even close to making that case.
Doesn't work.
No.
As a matter of fact, the drugs, especially marijuana, there's more available at a lower price than ever before in the history of this country. With all these big raids and the truckloads of cops running around and the surveillance and all this craziness, which is costing us billions, not millions, billions every year, not to mention incarceration and lawyers. Although, remember, the lawyers make the laws. They're not going to change marijuana laws.
Okay, well, I have a question still.
Yeah, sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay, so if you agree that it's a potential gateway to other drugs, and I understand and agree with you about the legal system, then could you go into, let's say, a second grade, and what would you tell them? Why would you want them to use marijuana?
Oh, well, what I would tell them is, look, there's a lot of things that we think that should be legal that we don't want second graders doing, right? We think that adults should be able to have sexual intercourse, but I wouldn't go into the second grade and say they should try that out. I think we should legalize alcohol, despite, I think we learned something from Prohibition. But that doesn't mean I think second graders should be, drinking Pinot Noirs or downing beers. I think that we shouldn't prohibit or even, have massive taxes on cigarettes. But I don't think second graders should do that. I don't even have a problem with mixed martial arts tournaments. But again, I don't want second graders engaging in mixed martial arts tournaments. So the fact that, we legalize something doesn't mean that it's appropriate for second graders.
Of course not. And also, I might add, the fact that it is illegal puts it in the hands of the criminals. And the criminals have a big stake in getting the kids started on it. They are pushing it. If you didn't have the criminals in it, nobody'd care, whether you smoke it or not. Incidentally, one of the problems with marijuana is they say, well, we could tax it. You're not going to tax it. A handful of seeds in your backyard will take care of a lifetime supply on your own.
It's as if we learned nothing from Prohibition. What do we need, Al Capone reappearing? And the Tommy guns? I mean, it's amazing. We went through the whole Prohibition, but at least the people who passed Prohibition had enough basic respect to the Constitution to put it in the Constitution. I mean, today's drug nannies sort of are prohibiting marijuana without any, by the federal government, without any sort of attempt to explain how the Constitution allows you to ban marijuana when individuals